Howdy, folks. I have a question. A question for people who see themselves as anti-racists and people who will just spasmodically think of myself as racist. I have a question. Now, a few months ago, actually a whole year ago, I made a YouTube video condemning Antifa and suggesting that they be named as an international terrorist group, since that's what they do. They terrorize people who have what they consider to be right-wing views and who dare to actually express those views using violence, intimidation, electronic intimidation, as well as real-world stalking and all sorts of horrible things. This is very anti-democratic, very anti-human even. But I'm not going to get lost in restating that. You can see a link to that video on the image of this video itself and in the description. Just a few days ago, somebody came along, and I'm not sure at what point in this video I said these words, but I have no doubt that I said them. This person quoted me saying, totally out of context of anything, not allowing any context for the words, he said, ethnic homeland. That sounds like thinly veiled racism. And I guess what I was suggesting is that with all of this mass immigration, which is going ahead without any kind of stops, without any kind of long-term plan, and it is effectively a plantation of Europe. I have a problem with that because I like different peoples. I wouldn't appreciate if we all turned into a mush. I'm sorry if you are offended by that idea, that if we all mixed up all of our races, all of our religions, all of our cultures, just put it all in a big blender, and then we have this endless cityscape expanse of a hodgepodge human being. What's the point in being in one place and being in the other? It's all the same, full of the same people, treating the land in the same way, treating each other in the same way. The beauty of difference is that I can be in one place, I can be amongst my people, be a certain way, the way I was brought up. I'm familiar with how things operate where I am. Then I can go and visit other peoples that do things differently. So that's a nice thing, isn't it? That's interesting, right? Why is wanting your own ethnic homeland, like say the Irish, the, excuse my language, but the niggers of Europe, that's what we are. We were treated like fucking trash. We were literally called white niggers up until very, very, very recently. I mean, do you recall at all in England? No blacks, no dogs, no Irish. What's wrong with that? That's my question to you. And my question to you, furthermore, to drive the point home, take a look at Hawaii, Australia, South Africa, full of white people, full of Asians, full of, the United States as well. Forgot about that. Canada. Basically, in Canada, they just kind of took all of the good land and then told the Eskimos to fuck off up north and have the tundra. One of my favorite parody bands, Three Dead Trolls in the Baggie, they wrote a song about it. That province that they gave the Inuit, it's called Nunavut. Nunavut. Which sounds a lot like none of it. And that was the plain words. We'll keep Canada, he said, and you can have none of it. Hawaiians, minorities in their own land. Inuit, minorities in their own land. The the Native American minority in their own land. And yeah, well, we're talking about the African American, a minority in a land that they were brought to. Even the ones that are happy where they are in the United States, they're comfortable. The ones that aren't living in squalor in the ghettos, they feel disconnection because they're not at home. And they would go home. I know this because I talked to them. They would go home, but Africans don't want them there because they're so far removed from what an African actually is. And I would say the same about Irish Americans. I don't want them in Ireland. See, that's what you call an ethnicity, okay? If you're mistaking that for race, you can't tell the difference between the two, and then you call me racist, then you have what they call a mental slide, right? Just think about this. And if it makes you feel better, you don't need to think about it in this context. Just kind of think all of the ideas, that run through your head, and how when somebody brings up something and suddenly your thinking stops. It just stops. It slides. It's a landslide. Once this thought lands on your mind, too much weight, your critical thinking turns off. But just a suggestion, think when somebody says ethnicity, race, in any way but other than reprimanding somebody else for being a racist, when you hear those words and you're not able to think, doesn't that set off alarm bells, right? So my question, sorry to digress, but my question is, isn't it wrong that Africans, well, they're not a minority, but they certainly were not the dominant race there, and they aren't now. Nobody's the dominant race there. The place is a fucking mess. Isn't it wrong that the Native American, completely dispossessed of their land, completely and utterly, and sent to live around radioactive mines, they can't even drink the water that comes out of the ground? Isn't it wrong that the Inuit have to live in the tundra, and they're a minority in their own land? Isn't it wrong that Hawaii, the Hawaiians, I don't know what they call themselves, there's a few different peoples there, but as a cover-all term, the Hawaiians, they are a minority in their own land, their own islands. Isn't that wrong? would it be wrong if millions of us Europeans up here kind of just packed everything up and went down there to Africa? Just said, okay, now we're the minority, or now we're the majority here. Wouldn't that be wrong? I want you to take a few steps back, like, I don't know, maybe like a mile distance back from your own ideology here and take a damn good look at it. Because that's what's happening to us here in Europe. Okay, we're being overrun. We can't feed and employ our own people. Our infrastructure is falling to pieces, and particular parts of Europe are being unfairly targeted for a plantation of millions of unlikes who have absolutely no respect and, I would say, a hatred for Europeans. Wouldn't it be just nasty? Wouldn't it be just nasty if, I don't know, we convinced the Japanese to hate themselves for World War II? Wouldn't that be horrible? If we just kind of rubbed it in and said, oh, that, I can't even remember what was he, a king? I don't know, the leader of Japan. Oh, he's horrible and it's all your fault. Wouldn't that be horrible? Wouldn't that be terrible? It would be just shitting all over these people's character, noble culture. Yeah, it would be wrong. It would be horrible. But that's what we did to Germany. They hate themselves now so immensely that they look at 5 million immigrants that aren't running from war. They're, for the most part, economic migrants. That's the fact on paper. Yep, that's just what it is. And they're saying, please, make yourself at home. Take my jobs. Take my food. Have internet. Rape my women in the street. I won't complain because I'm German and I hate myself. I hate my country. Yeah, that's what we did to Germany. We killed them. Genocide. It isn't just going in there with guns and mowing people down and corralling them into concentration camps and starving them. Okay? You can commit genocide through the mind. Let me tell you about the Irish, because not very many people know about the Irish, really. Not many people even knew that they were the niggers of Europe. Nobody really knows that the tactics that were employed in Ireland were exported to Africa, were superimposed in those colonial regimes. And also, it flowed the other way as well. Some Algerian, general in Algeria, French, he learned a few tricks, advised some nutcase up here in Northern Ireland on how to crush the dissidents. Yeah, who are the dissidents? The native Irish, the people who were displaced in Ulster by a plantation. What came before the plantation? 700 years of colonialism, 700 years of being taxed if you have too many windows on your house, 700 years of people steamrolling through your towns, coming to your farm, raping your sister, burning down the shed, or what have you. You know how they talk about the potato famine? It wasn't a famine, dude. It wasn't a fucking famine. Who only plants potatoes? Have you stopped to think about that? It's a ridiculous story. I know I didn't stop to think about that until, somebody suggested that I do 6 years ago. Before then, I just kind of took it as, my dumbass ancestors only grew potatoes, so then there was a potato blight, and then none of us ate. And then the British came in with their soup kitchens, fed us the food that they stole from our farms by gunpoint. In exchange, we would speak English, we would convert to their particular brand of Christianity. We wouldn't educate our own children, we'd send them to the British schools so that we didn't learn any of our old ways. See, you don't have to be brown or black or yellow to be an oppressed person, to be a person that's getting the short end of the stick, as they say. I'm going to say the wrong end of the stick, but that doesn't suit in this situation. You get the wrong end of the stick because, when you've got it the wrong way around that somebody's talking about, and it actually comes from when you used to use a stick to wipe your ass. I imagine the saying refers to when you're taking a shit and in the hole or wherever people shat, and you reach the stick and you got the wrong end. Little random fact, just to lighten the mood, since we're talking about genocide. But you probably don't give a fuck anyway, because we're white, right? We're privileged. That's the attitude of empire. Empire would say that the Japanese are privileged because, they've got all this cool stuff and their economy is booming, and they're not. They barely can get it up to have sex with each other and have the next generation. That's how disenfranchised those people are. Two nuclear bombs dropped on them that really didn't need to be dropped on them. That did not need to happen. They were negotiating peace. But there's many reasons why the bomb had to drop. I guess to give an example, to the USSR and to any other country that would threaten the United States hegemony, and then clear the way for the country to be rebuilt by Anglo-Saxon money, which it has done. I mean, come on, Sony, what does that stand for? Standard Oil of New York. But oh no, those people are privileged because, they're not poor, they're not starving. Right? I'm just sick and tired of not being able to have conversations about culture, ethnicity, race. I'm not a racist. I don't really see much difference in the races other than, well, physically, we're different. And maybe there might be a slight mental difference. But it never stopped an individual black man from outsmarting an individual white man or an individual Asian man, that's for certain. We're talking collectives, means here. But I'm sick of not being able to have a conversation about these things. Because on one hand, I have genuine racists. They do not like black people. And they don't like me because I'm married to a African American, part Native American, part maybe Italian, maybe Scottish, maybe German, I don't know. It's been in the United States so long. Her family were freemen for quite a long time, with mysterious origins. But these genuine racists, they won't accept me, and to be honest, I have no interest in being accepted by them. None whatsoever, because I can't have an honest conversation with them. Do you know who else I can't have an honest conversation with? It's people that have that mental slide when they hear about nationhood, culture, ethnicity, race, anything in those areas, as long as, as long as it's in any other terms other than being disparaging, not a fucking chance. At best, you get looked at weird. At worst, guys in balaclavas come around and break your face with a breeze block, terrorize your family. Throw stones at you in the street when you exercise your fucking right to go into public and say, hang on a minute, I'm having a little bit of a problem with this excess immigration. What a crime. See, I can't have conversations with people like that. And it enrages me that I'm stuck between two groups of fucking morons. So, coming up on 25 minutes, I've rambled long enough, but I hope that you maybe got an insight into the mind of a fascist. Right? Yeah? And I hope that you can honestly answer this question. If it's not okay for Hawaiians to be a minority in Hawaii, if it's not okay for there to be a fuckload of white people in South Africa, if it's not okay for the Aborigines to be a minority in Australia, if it's not okay for the Inuits to be a minority in Canada, if it's not okay for the Native American to be a serious minority in the United States, why is it okay that by 2040 the Irish will be a minority in Ireland? Why is that okay?